A week ago today, Congress reintroduced some legislation, a bill that, if it is passed and signed into law, it would allow remote online notarization in all 50 states. In this video, I want to talk about this legislation to make sure you have a working understanding about it, because that's pretty much all I have, a general and working understanding. And then I want to switch to looking at some what ifs situations or scenarios. What if it passes? What would it mean to those of you who are employees and you perform notarizations on a regular basis at work? Those of you who, either full-time or part-time, act as a traveling or mobile notary public, and those of you who, full-time or part-time, run a notary signing agent business. Thank you for joining. Let's take a look at that bill and what it says. I'm going to come off camera for a moment. I want to make sure that the image on screen is as large as it can be. And I apologize if it's still illegible. Give me one quick moment to see if I can. All right. That might be about as big as it can go. So again, last week, House Bill 1777 was introduced. And I'm saying it's reintroduced because this is not the first time we in Alabama and in other states, notaries in other states, have heard about this federal remote online notarization bill. I think I first heard about it. No, let me not even do that and be wrong. But it's been about 3 years for me, and it's possible this has been around even longer. So I want to read that short summary, and then I'll come back on camera. HB 1777, to authorize notaries to perform and to establish minimum standards for electronic notarizations and remote notarizations that occur in or affect interstate commerce, to require any federal court to recognize notarizations performed by a notarial officer of any state, to require any state to recognize notarizations performed by a notarial officer of any other state when the notarization was performed under or relates to a public act, record, or judicial proceeding of the notarial officer's state, or when the notarization occurs in or affects interstate commerce and for other purposes. You can find the full language of House Bill 1777 by Googling, by using whatever legislation tracker app that you like. This came off of, I think it's Legiscan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So there you have it. This is why when certain companies, let's see, I'm trying to do two things at once, and I was about to click the wrong button. This is why when certain companies advertise on their websites and run ads stating that Alabama notaries can perform remote online notarizations. Um, that's why I say there's a lot of incorrect information in that statement. It's not as simple as it sounds. And as you can tell from the proposed legislation, um, changes still need to be made um, to laws so that notaries in every state have the ability to perform a RON, and when documents are notarized in other states using RON, those notarizations will be accepted here in Alabama and all 49 other states. All right. So for everything that I'm going to read from, I'll be sure to include it in the description section or in the comments so that you can go back to it and read it for yourself. I want to read a couple more things. Now, I'm not saying that House Bill 1777 is exactly like the Secure Notarization Act of 2020 that did not pass, but there's some similarities. So I want to read something from Secure. And I think these points are included in this House bill. Um, so the Secure Notarization Act of 2020 that did not get passed states that it would authorize every notary in the US to perform RON, which is what we saw with 1777. It would require tamper evident technology and electronic notarizations. It would provide fraud prevention through the use of multi-factor authentication for identity proofing and audio-visual recording of the notarial act. It would allow signers outside of the United States, such as military personnel and their families, to easily and securely notarize documents. Now, the Secure Notarization Act would not do the following. It would not impede consumer choice. What that says to me is that um, Alabama residents and residents in other states, if they were just adamantly opposed to using RON, that there would be an alternative. And hopefully I've defined or described RON, RON, remote online notarization. Another thing that wouldn't be effective, it would not impact state law on testamentary wills, and trusts. It would not favor specific technology or restrict the use of new and emerging advancements. You know, it's coming to my mind right now, but I won't say it. Okay, I'll say it. AI. It would not impact recording in the land records or title searches. Okay. Now, there are a lot more things I could read, but I don't want to put anyone to sleep. Here is a FAQ sheet, frequently asked question sheet, and I just want to read 4 of the question and answers. This appears to be an FAQ sheet for lawmakers. And so it suggests to me that the author of this FAQ sheet wanted to get this into lawmakers' hands. Again, this is entitled Securing and Enabling Commerce Using Remote and Electronic Notarization Act of 2020. And again, I know this is not identical to House Bill 1777, but when you get into the details of the House bill, you'll find a lot of the same language. At least I have so far. All right, question. Who supports, and this is very important, who supports the Secure Notarization Act? The American Land Title Association, also known as ALTA, the Mortgage Bankers Association, also known as MBA, and the National Association of Realtors, NAR. Next question, why is notarization important for real estate transactions? Now, right now, well, let me just read it. In the United States, it's so easy for me to digress. In the United States, real estate transfer documents are signed by parties in the presence of a notary and then are typically recorded in local land records, the Register of Deeds. At the end of the transaction, these public records, such as mortgages and deeds, are required by law to be notarized, and they provide the world with constructive notice about American property rights. The ability to create and rely on the validity of these records is central to our real estate market and provides a fundamental foundation for all parties when mortgaging, purchasing, and selling real property. Next question. Upon passage, how quickly could RON be available for consumers? Answer, immediately. This legislation expands the availability of RON to consumers in all states. The last Q&A I want to read. Does the Secure Notarization Act stop states from promulgating their own laws, regulations, and specific notary training? The answer is no. The Secure Notarization Act sets the floor, not the ceiling, on the use of RON. Nothing prevents states from passing their own laws or setting their own regulations. The minimum regulations set forth in the Act are to ensure customers are adequately protected when using RON. In fact, legislation is currently pending in 13 states which have not yet enacted RON, Alabama being one of those 13 states. And it's probably, the list is less than 13 now. And these bills generally follow the approach of states with RON laws. Moreover, more existing state statutes reflect the provisions embraced by Nonpartisan Uniform Law Commission and reflected in its model state legislation, meaning RULONA, RULONA, which stands for Revised Uniform Law on Notarial Actions, 2018. Alabama has not adopted RULONA yet. Quite a few states haven't. All right. Again, my goal is not to put anyone to sleep. My goal is to, again, let you know that lawmakers in Washington have rekindled discussions on RON that would allow it to be formed by notaries in all 50 states. I think you ought to know this. I think you ought to know this because if it comes out of committee successfully, do I have any other screens to show you? Maybe. If it gets passed, comes out of committee, gets voted on, and then moves on and gets passed into law, things could move quickly, very quickly for us here in Alabama and in other states, those of you who are in states that have not approved RON yet. So, what does this mean to you? What could it mean? Because again, there's no telling what, if it does pass, what the final language or requirements will look like. All right. But here are just a few points that I would like to suggest that you consider. Again, first, if you are an employee for a company and part of your duties involves routine notarization or even periodic notarization of signatures for your employer, I think it's time for you to start the discussion with your employer. Let your employer know, after you've done your research, about House Bill 1777 and just see what your employer's thoughts are. I would ask, is this something that your boss feels would benefit the company, the organization? If so, how? If not, why not? Not to argue, not to debate unless you want to, but that would help you to understand if this is going to be a change in your duties, in your role. So this could mean you needing to gain a better understanding yourself about RON and I have a few suggestions for that. Check in my notes. Um, yeah, you may find out your employer might say, you know what? I don't see that affecting us at all. Or this could be a bad thing, and why? Or this could be a very helpful thing. It could streamline a very slow, tedious process. Um, and when I say those of you who are employees of companies, Um, you could work at a hospital. I know when I first became a notary, I was a notary at a hospital. You could be a legal assistant, a paralegal, a court reporter. You could be an employee of the UPS store franchise. You could be at one of Alabama's libraries, AAA office, banks. I'm mentioning them, each of these, because I really want the word to get out to as many notaries as possible so that you can better decide with your employer if this is something that would help or harm, and then give you ample time to share your thoughts with your elected officials while you have the opportunity to possibly affect decisions. All right. Once you've talked it over with your employer, that will probably be several discussions. Your employer, your boss may ask you to go out and get more information. All right. But you'll want to follow or track the bill. See who is for it, who reach out to your representative, ask him or her questions about it. Again, you're asking not only from a personal standpoint, how it affects your role, but again, your employer probably wants to know how is it going to affect the business. It could be major. In fact, I'm going to make a note to find out what's going on in states that have already passed Ron. Are UPS store notaries performing as many in-person notarizations as they did before Ron or less? Same with banks. All right. Those of you who are using your notary commission not only to help those in the community, but also as a business, as a traveling or mobile notary public, what you going to do if this passes? You should be asking yourself now, how will it impact my notary business? Are you for or against? Again, our elected officials need to hear from us now before a decision is made for you. In reaching out to them, let them know why you were for it or against it. A very respected subscriber to my YouTube channel, I had mad respect for him, and I still do. And he left a comment on last week's Ron video, well, remote ink notarization video, that was a type of notarization he is not interested in doing. And I understand his point of view. However, if the law changes, it could mean that he gets fewer requests for in-person notarizations. Um, and maybe he won't, but maybe he will. And it's so good to get in front of that instead of hearing about it months later. And so after contacting legislators, doing your own research, it's time for notary business owners to um, get prepared. Does this mean holding a going out of business sale? Or does it mean redesigning, restructuring your notary business? Um, I made some notes that says really follow, read, and study the legislation and make sure you have a full understanding of what's being proposed. Have your elected officials answer questions and clarify and let them know how it could impact your role. It may be a good idea, and I think it would be get more information about Ron. And one way you may want to check out the National Notary Association's remote online notarization course. It is not, it's a online course. It does not train you to perform Ron, but it educates you on the process. It's an overview. I think if right now you don't have a good understanding about Ron and how that notarization process would look, irregardless of which um, platform you're on, is irregardless a word? Um, but just a real good overview, give you a good foundation. Then I would suggest it's time to pull out that business plan that is based on primarily in-person notarizations and do some revamping. Okay. You're going to have different customers. They're not going to all be in Alabama anymore. How do you prepare for that? Different equipment than you have now. And then you are marketing to, again, a different user, a different customer. And what do you need to do to change any ads that you've been running? Your website, there may be different platforms and directories that you'll need to be listed in. So that's just a few pointers for those of you who are working as traveling or mobile notaries here in Alabama or in your state. The last notary I want to touch on quickly is the notary signing agent. In Alabama, 90+% of real estate closings are paper in-person uh, methods, whether it is a refi, a buyer seller package, a loan modification, a reverse mortgage. Paper is involved, it's in person. So imagine if Ron gets approved, what that could do to to your business, to your signing agent business. Um, Definitely a decrease. I'm not going to say it would eliminate in-person notarizations, but for a large, I think the largest segment, um, it would do some major damage. You and I know that there's a population, probably age 70 or 75 and older, that will hold on to in-person notarizations. Many of them are property owners too. So that's good. That's why I'm not saying it's doom and gloom, but I do feel it would be, you would feel the effects. I don't think it would be overnight. I think it would be gradual. But who am I? I'm no expert in this field. I would love to ask this question, and I'll have an opportunity to do that when I go to the National Notary Association's conference in June of this year. I'm going to definitely seek out individuals and pose these questions to them. All right, back to the notary signing agent. Um, yeah, you really do need to sit down with pen and paper and take a look at the numbers and how they could change. Are you going to pivot and get on board with remote online notarizations? Or are you going to stay put? Or is it time for you to think about your exit strategy? Um, I'm bringing this up. It is being a running a notary business is like most businesses. The owner is going full steam ahead. Most notary business owners are in the trenches doing the notarizations. And that makes it hard to carve out time to do this planning. And I really believe it's time for us to do the planning. And I'm speaking to myself as well. Some of you know I do perform remote ink notarizations and have been for a while. This says to me, I'm willing to bet the ink notarizations will probably disappear almost totally um, within a year of Ron passing. Again, I'm not saying totally, but it'll be here and there. Okay, here and there. So again, making changes to websites, you may not need to be listed on certain platforms anymore. There may be platforms dedicated to Ron, but whether there is or there isn't, does your website, does your Google business listing need to be updated to reflect what you're doing? I'm about done. I know there was something more I wanted to pull up on the screen, but I'm not going to do that. But I want to close with this. After listening to, excuse me, this video, think about what has been said. Do your research on House Bill 1777. Talk it over with those who you respect in the industry. Let this marinate. If this is your full-time business, performing in-person notarizations, I suggest you reach out to the Small Business Association, SCORE, sit down with some real professionals. This is not the first time technology has upset the flow, the status quo. And being prepared could mean the difference of you surviving the change or not. Remember, those of you who are employees, just because you're employees doesn't mean it's not your problem. I think that your employer would want you to share this information with them. It probably isn't on their radar unless you work in the financial industry. Again, look up who your elected officials are, contact them, talk with them, find out which direction they're leaning in and why, and then let them know, based on your research, why you are for House Bill 77 or why you aren't. And I'm sure we all can come up with reasons for both sides. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have questions, and I expect that you will, I have questions. I'm going to reach out to my elected officials this week. Um, yeah, I got questions. But what sticks with me is, and this has been true from day one years ago, the financial services industry, the real estate industry, they feel that this is important to their industry, that Ron be passed. I was trying to think of not a metaphor, a simile, one of those things, terms for why. And this isn't the best one, but it worked for me. Um, Imagine going shopping to, I'll just say, four different grocery stores. And if if you're like me, when I do a big grocery shop, yeah, I go to about four different, at least three or four different grocery stores because I get certain things at one store and something different at another. So imagine if I were to go to Costco, I've got to have a Costco card. But when I go through the checkout line, they tell me the only currency that they will accept, I'm making this up. I probably shouldn't use Costco, should I? Hypothetical, is the Costco American Express card. That's it. Nothing else. And is that true? That might be. No, that's not true. All right. So let's say that for Costco. I leave there and I go to Kroger. I get to Kroger and Kroger says, I pull out my Costco American Express card, and Kroger says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Michelle. We only accept um, Visa, Visa debit cards." Like looking in my wallet, do I have that? Maybe I do. I probably do. So I'm like, okay, I was planning to put it on my Amex, but now I got to take it out my debit. I leave there. Now I need to go to Publix or Aldi's or Trader Joe's. And each place, the next place wants rolled coins only. The next place wants dollar bills. You follow me? This is what I feel the finance, the lending industry is dealing with because they are at minimum national entities. They go in one state has Ron, but one state only approves a certain platform. Now, when they have a customer in another state, that state approves a different platform. And when they have an Alabama customer, there is no Ron allowed. It's something called Ren. And when they call around, they can't find but one or two notaries who do it part time on the weekends when they feel like it. You follow me? And so that's just probably one of several reasons why the financial industry is encouraging lawmakers in all 50 states to implement this uniform Ron law so that business can move smoothly, more quickly. I hope that helped. It helped me. I hope it helps you. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comment. I really want to hear from those of you who are not in Ron states. What do you think you're going to do? And those of you, if you're not an Alabama notary, but you're in a state that is approved Ron, how is it going for you? And do you like it? What concerns should we have that you've experienced? That would be very helpful. Again, thank you for watching. Please share this video with other notaries that you know of. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd be honored if you would. Have a good evening.